The stargazer Asterisk, a vessel more scar tissue than polished alloy, shudders as it punches through the upper atmosphere of Xylos. Inside the cockpit, the shudder is a physical thing, a deep bone vibration that makes every loose component chatter a frantic, metallic teeth. Doctor. Aris Thorne's knuckles are white where she grips the edge of her console, her gaze locked on the main viewport, her breath held tight in her chest. Below, through swirling veils of ochre and rust-colored clouds, the world unveils itself. It is not a planet of mountains and valleys, of oceans and continents as nature intended. It is a planet of architecture, a single, sprawling, petrified city that stretches from pole to pole, a graveyard of impossible geometry swallowed by time and dust. Well, there it is. Captain Jax Rourke's voice is a flat, weary drone cutting through the ship's groaning protests. He doesn't look at the vista, his attention instead dancing across flickering holographic readouts that paint his weathered face in shades of cautionary orange and red. Your ghost town. Looks cozy. His hands, calloused and sure, move over the flight controls with a practiced, almost bored grace, guiding the groaning ship into a lower, stabilizing orbit. Radiation nominal. Atmosphere is thinner than promised, mostly argon and nitrogen. No life signs. Big surprise. It's a tomb, Doc. I've seen a dozen just like it. It's not a tomb, Jax. You don't build a asterisk this just to die in it. Her voice is low, fervent, her eyes devouring the details of the megalopolis below. From this altitude, she can see the colossal, spiraling towers that look less like buildings and more like frozen music, their peaks clawing at the thin sky. She sees the vast hexagonal patterns of what were once city districts, now filled with dunes of pale, gray dust. Canals, wide and deep as terrestrial oceans, snake through the structures, their beds bone-dry and cracked. There are no lights, no movements, no whispers of power. Only an immense, profound silence that seems to press against the viewport, a physical weight of millennia of abandonment. This is the culmination of her life's work, the focus of her obsession that cost her her reputation, her university position, everything. The academic journals had called her a fantasist, chasing fairy tales. But the fairy tale was real, and it was right below her, a dead world holding its breath. A tomb, a city, a cosmic junkyard, Jax retorts, finally glancing out the viewport with a cynical squint. The result's the same. They're gone. We're here. You get your scans, I get paid. That's the poetry of it. He begins the landing sequence, his movements economical and efficient. The asterisk stargazer groans again, a deeper, more resonant sound as its landing struts extend, and it begins its final, controlled descent towards a designated plaza near the largest structure on the hemisphere, a monstrous black spire that stabs at the heart of the system's dying red sun. The ship settles with a final, metallic sigh onto the dust-choked pavement of the plaza. The silence that follows is absolute, heavier than any vacuum. It's a silence that has depth and texture, a presence in itself. Aris is already moving, her hands trembling with a barely contained energy as she pulls on her environment suit. The suit's internal systems whir to life, and the first hiss of her own oxygen is loud in the helmet's confines. Jax follows with significantly less enthusiasm, his own suit sealing with a definitive, resigned click. The outer airlock door cycles open, and the world of Xylos greets them. The dust, fine as powdered bone, puffs around their boots as they take their first steps onto the alien pavement. The gravity is a fraction lighter than standard, giving their movements a faint, dreamlike buoyancy. The air is still, cold, and utterly scentless through the suit's filters. The only sound is the rasp of their own breathing, the crunch of their footsteps, and the low hum of their suit systems. Aris turns a slow, reverent circle, her helmeted head tilting back to take in the scale of their surroundings. The buildings are made of a material that seems to absorb light, a dark, non-reflective stone that is cool to the touch even through her gloved hand. The geometries are unsettling, with angles that seemed subtly wrong, curves that defied Euclidean principles, creating a dizzying, nauseating effect on the periphery of vision. Charming, Jax's voice crackles over the suit-to-suit comms, laced with static. Reminds me of my first apartment. Same lack of heating. He kicks at a small, desiccated lump of fused machinery, half buried in the dust. It crumbles into 1,000 metallic shards. So where's this heart of the mystery, Doc? The sooner we find it, the sooner we can leave this cheerful place. What? She is drawn, as if by a magnetic pull, towards the central spire. It dominates the skyline, a smooth obsidian needle so tall its peak is lost in the hazy, rust-colored sky. Its surface is unnervingly flawless, devoid of windows, seams, or any visible means of access. As they approach its base, the sense of scale becomes overwhelming, humbling. They are insects at the foot of a god's throne. There, she whispers, her voice full of awe. It has to be inside there. All the planetary energy signatures we detected from orbit, the residual tachyons, they all converge on this point. This isn't a building, Jax. It's a machine. What? No doors, no vents, no keyholes. Not even a scratch. If it's a machine, it's not interested in company. He raps his gloved knuckles against the wall. It makes no sound, the material absorbing the impact completely. Solid, probably all the way through. We could try the ship's cutter, but that would take days, and frankly, I'm not using up that much fuel on a hunch. What? She closes her eyes, trying to think, to feel. The Xylosians were masters of quantum information and resonance. They didn't think in terms of doors and locks. They thought in terms of harmony. Her mind races, replaying the fragmented data, the corrupted glyphs she'd spent a lifetime piecing together. A concept repeated in their art, the key of unified vibration. It wasn't a physical object. It was a state. Jax, she says, her voice tight with sudden, electrifying realization. The ship's long-range comms array. Can you modulate it? I need you to broadcast a focused, multi-phased signal. A specific harmonic frequency. What? You want me to sing asterisk to it? What? The data suggests they used quantum-entangled resonance for everything. Security, communication, power. This wall isn't just a wall. It's a membrane tuned to a specific quantum state. If we can replicate that state, it should acknowledge us. What? This is a monumentally bad idea, Thorne. We're messing with technology we don't understand, from a race that could probably turn a star into a paperweight. What? Aris's voice rises, sharp with desperation and a lifetime of being dismissed. This is it, Jax. The answer to the greatest question humanity has ever asked. Are we alone? What came before us? What happened to them? It's all in there. I need you to trust me. Just this once. What? He lets out a long, heavy sigh that fogs the inside of his visor for a second. Fine. But if this goes wrong, I'm billing your estate for the fuel and the therapy. He trudges back towards the ship, muttering about academic suicide missions and the poor financial choices of freelance pilots. Aris waits, her heart hammering against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the crushing silence. Minutes stretch into an eternity. She stares at the blank, black surface, her entire being focused on it. Then a low, almost subsonic hum begins to emanate from the stargazer asterisk. It's a complex, layered sound, a chord played on strings the size of planetary rings. The vibration passes through the soles of her boots and travels up her spine. For a long moment, nothing happens. The spire remains inert, a monument to its own impenetrability. A crushing wave of disappointment begins to wash over Aris. She was wrong. Again, it was all for nothing. But then, the surface of the spire directly in front of her begins to shimmer. It's not a light, but a distortion in reality itself, a wavering in the air like heat haze on a desert plain. The dark material doesn't slide open or retract, it simply ceases to be solid. The atoms themselves seem to realign, to part ways, revealing a yawning, perfectly dark opening that hadn't been there a second before. A wave of air, ancient and cold, and carrying a scent like ozone and forgotten metal, washes over her. From the impenetrable darkness within, a single, faint, azure light begins to pulse, a slow, steady rhythm like a sleeping heart. Jax's voice crackles over the comm, all traces of his earlier cynicism gone, replaced by pure, unadulterated shock. "Thorne, what did you just do?" "What?" Her voice is a whisper of triumph and terror. I knocked." "What?" The sound is a violation. A sharp, percussive crack that cuts through the spire's resonant, awakening hum, followed by the agonized screech of tortured metal. It is a sound of brutal physical force, an obscene intrusion into this place of silent, quantum energy and ancient, sorrowful ghosts. It echoes from the distant, shimmering entrance, a wound in the fabric of this impossible space. Jax spins around, his body coiled into a fighter's stance, his hand instinctively closing around the heavy utility cutter on his belt. His face, illuminated by the frantic pulse of the central sphere, is a mask of fresh, bewildered alarm. "What was that?" He barks, his voice tight. "A power surge. Structural collapse." What? Aris Thorne feels a cold that has nothing to do with the chamber's temperature seep into her bones. Her moment of resolute, tragic purpose shatters. That sound was not part of the Xylosians' elegant machinery. It was crude, violent, and terrifyingly familiar. "No," she whispers, her eyes wide with dawning horror. "That came from outside." What? Then another. And another. They are silhouetted against the faint, ochre light of the Xylosian sky, their forms bulky and angular in advanced tactical environment suits, a stark contrast to the flowing, organic lines of the Xylosian architecture. The lead figure's suit is scarred and patched, painted with the faded, predatory logo of a corporate security force, a stylized raptor clutching a gear. In his hands, he carries a heavy industrial plasma cutter, its barrel still glowing a faint, cherry red, the source of the violent noise. They didn't sing to the door. They burned their way in. "Well, well, well," a voice crackles over a general comms frequency, a voice laced with a smug, predatory glee that is horribly out of place amidst the chamber's solemnity. It is digitally filtered, but the arrogance is unmistakable. "Dr. Thorne, Captain Rourke, fancy meeting you in a place like this. We picked up your little harmonic serenade. Thought we'd drop in for the encore." "What?" "Valk," he snarls, the name a curse. "Marcus Valk. I should have known." Lurking in the asteroid belt, waiting to swoop in and scavenge the real work. "What?" His two companions fan out behind him, their movements disciplined and threatening, their own weapons, compact pulse rifles held at a ready low. Valk's helmeted head swivels, taking in the impossible scale of the chamber, the pulsating central sphere, the breathtaking holographic galaxy with its terrifying crimson wave. He lets out a low, appreciative whistle that crackles with static. "Look at this place," he muses, his voice dripping with avarice. "The mother lode." "The academic pinheads back home said you were chasing fairy tales, Thorne. But I've always found that disgraced geniuses have a certain desperate perspicacity. I invested in your obsession, and it seems the payoff is astronomical." His gaze fixes on the holographic countdown. 00024733 *. "What's the timer for?" "Some kind of main event." What? The immense power building in the chamber is a tangible pressure now, a thrumming in the teeth, a vibration that promises annihilation. This isn't a treasure vault. It's a tomb. A monument. There's nothing here for you. What? He gestures with the plasma cutter towards the central sphere and the crystal chairs. This technology alone is worth more than the entire Confederacy's GDP. The energy signatures we're reading are off the scale. This is the find of the millennium. And it's mine. His tone hardens, the playful predator vanishing, replaced by the cold, corporate mercenary. Now step away from the console. You've done your part. You found the door. My team will take it from here. Jax shouts, his patience snapping. The urgency of the countdown is a fire in his veins. That timer isn't for a light show. It's for the end of the world. We're in the middle of initiating a defensive protocol. If you interrupt the energy flow, you'll kill us all and everyone back home. Good one, Rourke. The old cosmic boogeyman routine. You really think we're that green? I think you're trying to protect your claim. A noble if futile gesture. Last chance. Step aside. The shield sequence is initiated, but it's in a precarious building phase. A significant power disruption, a violent seizure of the control interface, could destabilize the entire network. It could cause the energy to feedback, vaporizing the spire and them along with it. Or worse, it could collapse the shield before it even fully forms, leaving Earth utterly defenseless. They are no longer just would-be martyrs. They are the only sentries at the gate, and the gate is about to be stormed by blind, greedy fools. She makes a decision. A desperate, reckless decision. All right, she says, her voice suddenly calm, defeated. She holds her hands up, palms open, and takes a slow, deliberate step away from the crystal interface chair. All right, Valk. You win. It's too big for us anyway. She shoots a sharp, meaningful look at Jax, a look that screams play along. Jax, his every instinct screaming to fight, reads her expression. The confusion on his face is brief, then replaced by a grim, understanding tension. He gives a barely perceptible nod, his hand relaxing slightly on his cutter. Valk's posture shifts, radiating triumph. Smart woman. He gestures to one of his men. Kale, secure the console. I want a full data tap. Download everything. He doesn't see Aris as she shuffles sideways, positioning herself not between him and the console, but between him and the intricate, glowing veins on the surface of the central sphere. As Kale reaches the crystal chairs, his gloved hand reaching out for the interface, Aris acts. It's not an attack on the man, but on the machine. She throws her shoulder hard against the warm, pulsating surface of the sphere, right at a nexus of the converging energy veins. The reaction is instantaneous and violent. The sphere, a delicate balance of immense forces, interprets the impact as a local instability. A whipcrack of raw, azure energy, brilliant and furious, lashes out from the point of contact. It doesn't hit Aris, but arcs through the air towards the nearest source of disruptive metal and foreign energy signatures, Kale's outstretched hand and the rifle he carries. The sound is a deafening asterisk zzz-up crack. A smell of ionized air and vaporized composites fills the chamber. Kale is thrown backwards as if hit by a starship, his body convulsing, his suit's systems overloading in a shower of sparks. He lands in a heap, his armor smoking, completely still. In the same instant, Jax moves. He doesn't go for Valk. He dives towards the other mercenary, the one who had scoffed at them. He tackles the man low, around the knees, sending them both crashing to the unseen floor in a tangle of limbs and grunts. The pulse rifle skitters away, vanishing into the darkness. The chamber, for a single, frozen second, is a tableau of shock and chaos. The holographic display flickers wildly, the crimson wave stuttering in its progress. The deep hum of the spire's power core groans, a pained, basso profundo note that shakes the very foundation of reality. Marcus Valk recovers first, his surprise morphing into pure, unadulterated rage. He ignores his downed man, ignores the struggle between Jax and the other mercenary. His entire world has narrowed to Dr. Aris Thorne, who is now stumbling back from the sphere, her arm numb from the feedback vibration. You stupid, suicidal bitch. He roars, leveling the heavy plasma cutter at her chest. The barrel glows a malevolent red as it powers up. You just signed your death warrant. I'll melt you where you stand. There is no fear left in her, only a cold, clear certainty. Behind Valk, the countdown continues its merciless descent. 00021208. Then do it, she says, her voice eerily calm, carrying over the groaning of the wounded spire. But know this, Valk. The energy building in this chamber is set to discharge in a focused beam towards Earth. If you kill me, if you disrupt this console, you won't just be murdering me. You will be personally responsible for the extinction of the entire human race. Your name will be the last curse on the lips of 8 billion people. Is that the legacy you want? To be the grave digger of humanity? The sheer, insane scale of her claim gives him pause. His finger tightens on the trigger, but his eyes flicker towards the hologram, towards the terrifying wave of crimson death and the slender, shimmering thread of silver hope leading back to Earth. He is a man of profit and violence, not cosmology. But he is not a fool. The raw power in the room is undeniable, a physical force pressing in on him. The evidence of it lies smoldering at his feet. The standoff is absolute. Jax and the other mercenary are locked in a desperate, silent struggle on the floor. The spire groans its pain. The galaxy turns indifferent. And then a new light fills the chamber. Not the blue of the Xylosians, nor the white of the shield energy, nor the red of the holographic wave. This is a deep, bloody, violent crimson that washes over everything, emanating not from the hologram, but from the very walls, the very air around them. The voice of the Xylosian echo returns, not a whisper, but a deafening, panicked scream that is felt in the marrow of their bones. The wave approaches the outer detector grid. The resonance is destabilizing local spacetime. The final phase begins. The great filter is here. The Golden Custodian's silence is a physical weight, pressing down on Aris, forcing her to bear the entirety of a choice that feels less like a gift and more like a damnation. She looks at the image of the living Xylos, a world so vibrant and teeming with a civilization at its zenith that it makes the dead, petrified city outside their walls feel like a haunting premonition. She can almost smell the air, thick with exotic pollens and the clean, sharp scent of ozone from their advanced technology. She can almost hear the symphony of their cities, a harmonious blend of machinery and music, of millions of voices raised not in a final, sorrowful chorus, but in the daily, vibrant cacophony of life. It is the ultimate answer to her life's work, the living, breathing culmination of every fragmented glyph, every corrupted data stream, every sleepless night spent piecing together the ghost of a people. To walk among them, to see their faces, to ask the architects of this impossible spire asterisk why. It is a siren song more powerful than the wave's promise of oblivion. But then she looks at Jax. His face is a granite mask of refusal, his arms crossed tightly over his chest, his jaw set in a line of pure, pragmatic finality. He is the anchor to a reality she is desperately trying to escape, and she hates him for it in this single, treacherous moment. And then she forces herself to look past him, to the holographic image of Earth, their Earth, still shining like a flawless blue diamond in the vast, gray graveyard of the galaxy. That image is a cold splash of water on the feverish dream of Xylos' past. It is the evidence of their sacrifice, their victory. To risk that, to even entertain a non-zero chance of unraveling the timeline that led to this moment, feels like the most profound betrayal imaginable. It would make their sacrifice, their entombment, a meaningless farce. He's right, Aris says, the words tasting like ash and broken dreams in her mouth. Her voice is hollow, stripped of all its former fervor, all its academic passion. It is the voice of a commander surrendering a lost battle. We can't. The risk is, it's an abomination. We would be playing with existence itself. We saved them. All of them. We don't get to jeopardize that for a glimpse. She turns from the breathtaking image of Golden Age Xylos, her shoulders slumping in a defeat that feels more total than any she has ever known. Our story ends here. In the dark. That's the price. The choice is yours to make. The potentiality will remain for a short time, as the core's residual energy dissipates. But it is finite. When it is gone, so too is the path. The entity's form begins to gently fade, its edges becoming translucent, merging back into the ambient golden light pouring from the sphere. You have been worthy custodians, more than we could have ever hoped for. Your echo will not be forgotten in the patterns we have become. Wait. The word is torn from Jax's lips, sharp and sudden, stopping the custodian's dissolution. He is no longer looking at the hologram of Earth or the image of the past. His eyes are fixed on a different part of the main display, where a secondary diagnostic readout is still active. His pilot's mind, trained to see patterns and trajectories that others miss, has latched onto a terrifying anomaly. The energy signature, the one from the shield activation. Thorne, look at the tachyonic residue. The data stream is complex, a river of quantum information, but she sees it now too. A faint, ghostly echo of the shield's silver energy, a resonant feedback, did not just dissipate. It ricocheted. The holographic display recalculates, drawing a new, terrifying line. It doesn't lead to Earth. It leads from Earth, a faint, almost imperceptible thread of silver, reaching back across the light years, touching the outer edges of the Confederacy's fledgling colonies, and then continuing. Farther out, towards the galactic rim, towards the empty, sterile space from which the next great filter would one day emerge. It's a beacon, Jax whispers, his face pale, his earlier certainty crumbling into dust. Our shield, it didn't just protect Earth. It shouted our location into the void. It announced to the next wave, to the next cycle, that someone here, in this tiny, insignificant corner of the galaxy, fought back. That we found a way to resist the reset. The analysis is correct. The energy required to create a localized, dampening field of that magnitude created a unique, high-frequency resonance in the space-time continuum. It is a scar, a signature. The great filter is a mindless, natural process, but it operates on fixed principles. It will have registered the anomaly. It will adapt. Adapt how? Aris demands, her blood running colder than the void outside the spire. The cycles are not identical. The custodian's mental voice is now grave, filled with a portentous dread. The filter learns. It evolves. It cannot be defeated, but it can be focused. The next wave will not be a mindless, uniform sweep. It will be a targeted strike. It will come sooner. And it will carry with it a specific anti-resonance designed to unravel the specific quantum frequency of your shield. Your victory, brave echoes, has saved your people for one cycle. But it has guaranteed their absolute, inescapable annihilation in the next. They will have no warning. They will have no defense. The Xylosians had millennia to prepare for transcendence. Your civilization will have moments to comprehend its doom. The revelation lands in the chamber with the force of a planet cracking in two. The weight of it drives Aris to her knees. She grips the edge of the crystal chair, her knuckles white, her breath coming in short, ragged gasps. They hadn't saved humanity. They had merely postponed its execution, and in doing so, ensured it would be far, far worse. They had turned their species into a flashing target for a cosmic immune system. The noble sacrifice, the tragic entombment, it was all for nothing. Worse than nothing. They had become the architects of an even more certain, more terrifying extinction. Jax stumbles over to her, his own face a mirror of her horrified realization. So there's no winning. We just chose a slower, more painful death for everyone. We didn't save them. We just doomed them later. He looks up at the custodian, his eyes blazing with a frantic, desperate fury. Is that it? Is that the grand punchline to this cosmic joke? Then it speaks, and its voice is the quietest it has been, a whisper on the edge of eternity. There is one potentiality. The path to the past is not merely for observation. It is for intervention. Aris looks up, tears of despair and rage streaking through the grime on her cheeks. Intervention? You just said we couldn't change the major events. The filter has inertia. But you can change the context of the discovery. The Xylosians of the Golden Age were arrogant. They believed their mastery of the universe was absolute. They dismissed the first, faint whispers of the cyclical extinction for centuries, treating it as a theoretical curiosity, a mathematical anomaly. By the time they accepted the truth, they had only a handful of generations to achieve the impossible, transcendence. It was a frantic, desperate, last-ditch effort that required the sacrifice of their entire physical world. The entity's light intensifies, focusing on Aris. But if they had been warned earlier, if they had been given proof, not from their own mathematicians, but from witnesses from the future, if they had been given not just a warning, but a blueprint asterisk. It is a leap so vast, so audacious, that it steals the air from her lungs. The shield technology, she breathes. The resonance principle. It's Xylosian in origin. We just used their own machine. If we could give them the schematics for a planetary-scale shield network centuries earlier, if we could give them the head start they never had, they could have remained. They could have fortified. They could have built a galaxy-spanning bastion against the filter. A civilization that could withstand the cycle. A civilization that could, in time, perhaps even learn to communicate with the process, to reason with it. The timeline would change. Drastically, the Xylosian civilization would not fall. It would endure. And in this new, branching timeline, the Great Filter would encounter not a fledgling, vulnerable humanity, but the ancient, invincible guardians who had been preparing for its arrival for 100,000 years. The choice is no longer between a history lesson and a slow death. It is no longer about paradoxes and prime directives. It is a choice between two futures. On one path, a temporarily saved humanity marches blindly towards a guaranteed, tailored annihilation. On the other path, a universe where the Xylosians never fell. A universe where humanity, when it finally reaches for the stars, would find not silent ruins and grim warnings, but living mentors, powerful protectors who had already solved the greatest existential threat in cosmic history. Jax is staring at her, his skepticism utterly vaporized, replaced by a dawning, staggering comprehension of the stakes. We wouldn't just be saving Earth, he says, his voice filled with awe. We'd be saving everyone. For all time. We'd be giving the Xylosians a chance to be what they were always meant to be, not ghosts, but guardians. It is a resolve that accepts an even greater sacrifice. They will not just die in the dark. They will vanish from their own timeline entirely. They will erase their own victory, their own history, to create a better one for all who come after. They will become less than echoes. They will become seeds, planted in the past, hoping to grow a forest that will shelter generations yet unborn. She turns to the golden custodian, her back straight, her voice clear and steady, devoid of all fear, all hesitation. Do it, she commands. Send us back. To the moment of their highest energy signature. To the peak of their golden age. The entire chamber thrums, not with the deep roar of the shield, but with a higher, piercing frequency that seems to vibrate at the edge of hearing, a sound that is peeling back the layers of reality itself. The central sphere rotates, its open petals of energy aligning into A. The silence that follows the third curator's suggestion is not merely an absence of sound. It is a palpable, vibrating void, thick with the weight of unspoken implications and the terrifying fragility of their one, slender chance. Doctor, Aris Thorne feels the spark of hope in her chest, a tiny, guttering flame threatening to be extinguished by the sheer, chilling magnitude of what is being proposed. To interface directly with the Xylosian collective unconscious, to dive into the living, breathing memory of a godlike civilization. The thought is both the culmination of her wildest academic fantasies and the substance of her most profound nightmares. She can feel Jax's tension beside her, a coiled spring of dread and desperate resolve. His mind, though unskilled in the subtle art of telepathic projection, screams a silent, panicked warning that she feels as a sharp pressure against her own thoughts. The memory crystals, * the central curator's layered thought voice resumes, its cadence slow and contemplative, as if weighing the cosmic consequences of each syllable. They are the foundation of the harmony. They are not a library to be perused. They are the essence of what we are. To introduce an external, temporally disrupted resonance into that core matrix is a risk of incalculable proportions. It could create a cascading corruption. It could destabilize the pattern itself. And what is the risk of doing nothing? Aris projects back, her mental voice sharp, laced with a desperation that feels like a physical ache in her throat. She takes a step forward, her boots making no sound on the warm, pulsing floor. She gestures around them, at the impossible, teeming grandeur of the spire of unified thought, at the thousands of Xylosians moving in their serene, purposeful ballet. You speak of destabilizing the pattern. We are telling you that the pattern is destined to be shattered. Not by us, but by a force that treats your perfect harmony as a discordant note to be silenced. This isn't a theoretical risk, it is a historical certainty. The evidence you demand isn't a data stream we carry in a pocket. It is written in the very dust of the future you are blindly walking towards. Let us prove it to you. Let us use the key you say we possess. The three curators are silent again, their frozen light patterns reflecting the internal, lightning-fast processing of a trillion variables. Aris can feel the pressure of their silent debate, a psychic hum that makes the air itself seem to thicken and crackle with potential energy. The guide who brought them has retreated to the very edge of the platform, its form dimmed, as if trying to make itself insignificant before such a momentous decision. Finally, the central curator speaks, and its thought voice carries a new, grim finality. The potential for catastrophe, both from your claim and from the verification process, is unprecedented. Yet the anomaly of your presence cannot be ignored. A paradox of this magnitude is a crack in reality. It must be resolved. It turns its luminous, pupil-less eyes towards the abyssal core of the spire. We will grant you access to the antechamber of reflection. There, you will be linked to the peripheral nodes of the crystal network. Your consciousness will be immersed in the Gestalt. You will have one opportunity to find this evidence, to find the latent memory of our own extinction. If you succeed, the conclave will be compelled to act. If you fail, or if your presence causes any instability, the link will be severed, and you will be placed in permanent stasis for study. Your paradox will be contained. Permanent stasis. The words land in Aris's mind with the chilling finality of a tomb slab sealing shut. It is a fate worse than the cold, slow death in the future spire. It is to be frozen as a specimen, a curious insect pinned to a board for all eternity, her warning forever unheeded. She feels Jax's hand find hers, a sudden, solid, human warmth in the midst of the overwhelming alienness. His grip is tight, his palms slick with sweat. He doesn't project a thought, but the message is clear in the firm pressure of his fingers. Together. We accept Aris' projects, her voice steady despite the tremor in her soul. The curators do not lead them. Instead, the very platform they are standing on begins to move. It detaches from the wall with a silent, seamless grace, becoming their vessel, and glides out into the immense, vertical canyon of the spire's interior. They float past breathtaking vistas of Xylosian civilization, past gatherings where light-form symphonies are being composed, past laboratories where the very laws of physics are being gently bent to their will. The beauty of it is a cruel, twisting knife in Aris's gut, a vivid, living postcard from a world she is trying to save from a hell she has already witnessed. Their journey ends at a part of the spire that feels different. The constant, harmonious murmur of the teeming billions fades into a deep, resonant silence. The walls here are not adorned with shifting, organic structures, but are smooth, dark, and non-reflective, reminiscent of the material from the future. They are entering a sanctum. The platform docks against a perfectly circular aperture that irises open without a sound, revealing a chamber beyond that is both vast and intimate. The antechamber of reflection is a sphere of absolute blackness, a pocket of contained void within the vibrant, living spire. In the very center of the sphere, suspended in the nothingness, floats a complex crystalline structure that is the only source of light. It is not large, perhaps the size of a terrestrial ground car, but its geometry is so complex, so infinitely layered and fractally intricate, that it hurts the eyes to look upon it directly. It is a miniature version of the central sphere from the future, but this one is alive, pulsing with a soft, internal light that cycles through the entire spectrum of colors, each hue representing some unknowable facet of the Xylosian experience. This is not the core, but a gateway to it. A single, narrow bridge of solidified light, identical to the one in the tomb, extends from the doorway to the floating crystal. The interface is there, the central curator projects, its thought voice now muted, as if even mental speech is an intrusion in this sacred space. You must both make physical contact. Your neural patterns will be scanned and integrated. You will not be able to speak or project to one another. You will be alone together in the ocean of us. Find the dissonance you claim exists. Find the memory of the end. Aris and Jax exchange one last, long look. His face is pale, his eyes wide with a fear he no longer bothers to conceal, but there is a stubborn set to his jaw that gives her courage. He gives her hand one final, reassuring squeeze, then releases it. Together, they step onto the bridge of light. It feels exactly as it did a million years in the future, solid, yet humming with a tremendous, contained power. They walk forward, their footsteps silent in the overwhelming quiet of the antechamber. The floating crystal looms before them, its pulsating light casting their faces in shifting rainbow hues. As they draw closer, Aris can see that its surface is not solid, but is composed of billions of tiny, shifting facets, each one a perfect, gleaming mirror reflecting a different image. A star being born, a Xylosian child's first thought, the equation for gravity, the scent of rain on an alien world. It is the totality of a civilization, and they are about to dive in. Ready? Jax whispers, the word a fragile human sound swallowed by the immense silence. No, Aris answers truthfully. But we have to be. What? Then with a shared deep breath, they place their palms flat upon the crystal. The effect is instantaneous and utterly cataclysmic. The world, the chamber, the spire, their own bodies, vanishes. There is no transition, no gentle fade. It is an obliteration of the self. Aris Thorne is unmade for the second time, but this is different from the temporal transit. That was a violent pulling apart. This is a gentle, yet total dissolution. She is a drop of water falling into an ocean of light and memory. Sensation returns, but it is not her own. It is a billion sensations at once. The joy of a billion births. The quiet satisfaction of a trillion scientific discoveries. The gentle, loving connection between mates that lasts for millennia. The profound, peaceful contemplation of a philosopher staring at the event horizon of a black hole. She is drowning in the harmony. It is beautiful. It is perfect. It is a siren song of absolute belonging, promising to wipe away all her fear, all her pain, all the lonely, desperate striving of her human life. She could let go. She could become a single, harmonious note in this glorious, eternal symphony. The urge to surrender is the most powerful force she has ever encountered. Jax, she thinks, but the thought has no form, no direction. It is lost in the ocean. She forces herself to remember. The tomb, the dust, The crimson wave. The countdown. She focuses on the dissonance, on the one terrible note that does not belong in this beautiful music. She searches for the memory of fear. And then she feels it. A tremor. A single, faint, discordant vibration, so deep and so buried under layers of perfect happiness and absolute certainty that it is almost imperceptible. It is a whisper of cold in the warmth, a sliver of dread in the joy. It is the first subconscious collective unease. The great filter, not as a discovered truth, but as a nascent, terrifying possibility lurking in the statistical shadows of their most advanced cosmological models. It is there, a ghost in the machine, a cancer cell in the perfect, healthy body of the harmony. She focuses all her will, all her being on that single, discordant note. She pushes towards it, using her own lived experience of the apocalypse as a magnet, drawing the latent fear to the surface. It is like trying to lift a mountain with her bare hands. The weight of the perfect harmony pushes back, a soothing lullaby voice telling her to rest, to let go, that such ugly thoughts have no place here. She feels a presence, a familiar, stubborn, gritty resistance amidst the overwhelming serenity. Jax, he cannot navigate the data streams like she can, but his consciousness is a rock in this ocean of light, an anchor of pure, pragmatic terror. He is not searching for data. He is simply screaming his memory of the holographic wave, of the gray death spreading across the galaxy, of the sterile silence of their future. His fear is a blunt, clumsy instrument, but it is powerful. It is real, and it is amplifying the faint, buried dissonance she has found. Together, their two human consciousnesses, their two sets of future memories, act as a resonance fork, striking the one hidden flaw in the diamond of the Xylosian mind. The tremor grows. The whisper becomes a murmur. The sliver of dread becomes a shard of ice. And then they find it. Not a full memory, but a seed. A single, encrypted data packet, buried deep within the collective unconscious, labeled with a glyph of such profound taboo that the very act of perceiving it sends shockwaves of revulsion through the gestalt around them. It is a preliminary report, compiled by A.